episode 2 of Expat Offenders. In this series, I'll be discussing how expats, people who leave their country of birth and move abroad, are either accused or convicted of committing various crimes. Now, in this episode, I'll be discussing how 4 Nigerian nationals residing all across England were convicted of forging over 4,000 marriage documents in an elaborate scheme. If you haven't, go back and watch episode 1. But now let's get into episode 2. Okay, so episode 2 is titled The Fake Marriage Scheme. So let's get into exactly what happened. So the UK Home Office says between 2019 and 2023, 4 Nigerian nationals forged over 4,000 fake marriage certificates through the EU settlement scheme. So as we further discuss what happened, I'll go into detail and explain what the EU settlement scheme is and what marriage certificates, marriage documents the 4 Nigerian nationals are alleged to have forged. Well, I shouldn't say alleged because they were found guilty, and we'll also get into that. So, who exactly was involved in this scheme? Guys, y'all gonna have to forgive me for the pronunciation of these 4 individuals. I know that it is probably, I'm probably pronouncing their names incorrectly, but I'm gonna just call them by their surnames. I think I'll do better if I just try and pronounce their surnames rather than their whole names. So, starting from the top left is Onufade, age 41. Next is Kabir, age 54. Sharipo, age 38. And Gadamasi, age 31. So these are the 4 Nigerian nationals that were living across England that are accused of and found guilty of being involved in this fake marriage scheme. I got this information from Sky News. I will link the article in the description box, but this is what these 4 individuals are alleged to have done. So the Home Office said the 4 were part of an organized criminal group that made fraudulent EU settlement status application for Nigerian nationals. They carried out the enterprise between March 2019 and May 2023 and were also found to have provided false Nigerian customary marriage certificates and other fraudulent documentations to help applicants remain in the country. An investigation from the Home Office in the UK and Lagos found more than 2,000 false marriage documents were facilitated by the group, who themselves were Nigerian. Okay, so to help explain what the EU settlement scheme is, you should go to the Home Office website. It's also on there, but Tower Hamlets is a London borough. So on their council website, they have this document, which I found, and I find that it explains the EU settlement status in a more concise way. But in order to get like the official government wording, you should go to the Home Office website. But this also explains it. So it says, what is the EU settlement scheme? If you are an EU citizen and want to stay in the UK beyond the 31st of December 2020, you and your family members will need to apply to the EU settlement scheme. The EU settlement scheme allows you to continue to live, work, and study here in the UK. It means you continue to be eligible for public services such as healthcare and schools, public funds and pensions, British citizenships, if you want to apply and meet the requirements. The document goes on to state under Am I eligible to apply? To apply, you need to be an EU citizen or a non-EU family member of an EU citizen, and you need to be living in the UK by December 31st, 2020. Basically, just to break it down even more, this is a policy that was put in place post-Brexit. So before Brexit, if you were an EU national, EU citizen, you can more freely move and live and work in the UK without all of these parameters. But post-Brexit, this is the policy that was put in place. So essentially, the 4 Nigerian nationals that is a part of this scheme, this is what they use when they were submitting the fraudulent marriage certificates to the Home Office on behalf of other Nigerian nationals in order to gain access to indefinite leave to remain, because that was the end goal. Now, I have indefinite leave to remain. So basically, what it is permanent residency. Back home in the United States, we call permanent residency a green card. It is the equivalent of a green card. It allows you to live and work in the UK freely without having to have a visa. And the requirements to have indefinite leave to remain is that you have to reside in the UK for 5 continuous years, and then you apply to the Home Office for permanent residency, and you have to provide proof that you've been in the country consecutively for 5 years. So when I did my application, the proof that I supplied was through my employer. So my employers could say that Victoria worked here for 3 years, and then another employer could say that Victoria worked here for 2 years. So those two official documents from my former employers would say that she has resided in the UK for a total of 5 years, and that makes her eligible to meet the criteria for indefinite leave to remain. That's how I was able to access permanent residency. You can also access permanent residency through marriage. That's what these 4 people, the 4 Nigerian nationals, that's what they did. So they essentially were forging documents showing that people were married, either through to somebody that was an EU national or EU citizen, and then they were submitting those documents to the Home Office. So the over 2,000 times they did this, over 2,000 documents in order to show that, hey, these people are married, and they are married to someone that is an EU citizen or EU national, and because of that, they should have indefinite leave to remain, which allows them to legally live and work in the UK without restrictions. That's how they were able to do it. Now, the second part of this scheme is the actual marriage documents. So let's get into that next. Okay, so I don't want to play this video in full because I don't want no issues with like copyrights or whatever. But in doing research for this video, I watched a couple YouTube videos, and hers was pretty concise with the way that she explained what a customary traditional Nigerian wedding is. The name of her channel is LSWK World, and the name of the video is Customary Law Marriage in Nigeria. I'll put the link in the description box. But from her video and other videos, what I've gathered, Niger Massive, feel free to drop down in the comments and add or clarify if I have gotten anything incorrect. But essentially, in traditional Nigerian weddings, it's different from like a legal marriage. So back home in the United States, people can just go down to the courthouse. They'll say, I'm going to the courthouse and just getting married. I'm not doing no big old wedding. I'm just me and my babe. We just getting married. So they'll go down to the Justice of the Peace, go down to the courthouse, and they'll sign their names on the registry, and then they're giving a marriage certificate. So that is a legal document identifying that 2 individuals have willingly, not under coercion or anything like that, have willingly joined into a marriage. In Nigerian customary or traditional marriage, there is no official record or registry. What it is from my understanding, is that it's not just about the 2 individuals that are joining into the marriage. It's about 2 families joining together. And in the joining of the 2 families, what is the signifier that the marriage is recognized within the culture is a dowry. So the bride's family receives a dowry or a payment from the groom and the groom's family. And so that exchange, the giving and receiving of the dowry, is what signifies that there is a customary marriage in place. And because there isn't like a legal document in place, there are different steps that people have to go through in order to have their traditional or customary marriage recognized legally. Now, Niger Massive, if I got any of that wrong, jump down in the comments and clarify. But from watching this young lady's videos and some other videos, that is what I've gathered. So the 4 individuals involved in this case, they essentially use that gray area. They use that loophole where there isn't a legal document, there isn't a marriage certificate to identify that these 2 individuals are married. So what they did is that they fraudulently created marriage certificates and submitted it not only to the Home Office in the UK, but also to the government agencies in Lagos to say that these 2 people are have a traditional marriage and they want to have their this marriage identified in a way where they can be receive a legal document. And that is what they were forging and using to submit to the Home Office in order for these individuals to then gain access to indefinite leave to remain or permanent residency in the UK. So the scheme was multifaceted, child. So they had this scheme with the marriage documents, and then there was a whole other part of the scheme with the EU settlement scheme. So 2 different parts that were working jointly in order to have the singular outcome of permanent residency. His picture is on the top in this slide. He was residing in Kent. Shadipo, her picture is at the bottom. She was residing in Manchester. They both were found guilty of conspiracy to facilitate illegal entry into the UK and conspiracy to provide articles used in fraud. They were jailed for 6 years and 5 years, respectively. Now let's discuss the findings for the other 2 individuals involved in this. No, I'm not pronouncing his name right. Gabamasi. He is the bottom photo from Bolton. He was convicted of obtaining leave to remain by deception and fraud by false representation and sentenced to 6 years. Kabir, whose photo is on top in this slide, residing in London, was found guilty of possession of an identity document with improper intention, but was cleared of obtaining leave to remain by deception. He was jailed for 9 months in total. So he had he was found guilty on lesser charges, and he also was sentenced to the least amount of time out of the 4 individuals. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every Monday, so I'll see you next time. Bye.